Actually, this is our biggest pot of the day. A little 77k pot going to Kevin. Don't spend it all in one place, sir. Do you want to know what is inside the Mechanics of Poker program? Go over to the site where you can watch a free 1-hour demo. Hi there, boys and girls. Welcome back to another video here at the Poker Ambition channel, in which today we are going to continue our reel at the 40k NL games at GG. We had quite some interesting pots in the last episode. If you haven't seen that one, go check that out. Make sure to remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, follow the channel, and leave a comment down below if you would have played any hand any differently, or if you have any tips for any of these players playing at these games. So without further ado, let's continue the action. Kevin comes in for a raise under the gun. Limitless is defending. King Jack 8. Kevin comes in for a 1/4 pot c-bet. Limitless calls. Turn 10, quite interesting. It's quite a funky turn spot, an interesting spot to take a look at a solver. There's a couple of cool concepts in here to learn from, so that would be my suggestion. Look this spot up in the solver and kind of look what it does. And Kevin probably also realized that, like, oh, this is one of these funky spots, there's a lot of stuff going on, and he thought about it for a little while and did end up deciding to check. Now it's up to Limitless, who checks as well. And now it's up to Kevin, who again thinks about it for quite a while before deciding to throw out a bet. And now it's up to Limitless. I think Limitless is the person who probably has most flushes. I think if Kevin had a good king with spades, it's likely that he would have barreled the turn. Let's say he has king queen of spades, ace king of spades, king 9 of spades, king 8 of spades, king 7 of spades, I guess could be a hand that he could be checking. Well, I think Limitless has any king x of spades. Same with the ace x of spades. I think Kevin could be barreling that himself, kind of as a bluff, putting some pressure on a 10 or a jack, or just a random king. Let's say he has a hand like king 5 and faces the barrel. He's probably not very happy. Ace queen is definitely still an option for Limitless, where I think Kevin would just always barrel that. But Kevin could definitely still play maybe a 2-pair like this. He could still have a hand like a set, but I think it's unlikely. I think Kevin's most likely range is a hand like king queen with a spade, ace king maybe, but I think ace king is a bit more likely to barrel. Aces also a bit more likely to barrel, so I would say like 2-pair. Maybe a bluff. And Limitless now goes in for the raise. And this is actually also a spot that we had discussed in the river check raising video. So if you haven't seen that one, go check that out. And this is one of these capped scenarios where Kevin took a bet check bet line, where it's more likely that he would just barrel his strong hands on the turn. Mainly his flush draws, mainly his ace queens. And it's very likely that Limitless still has these holdings. So it's a spot where Limitless can wrap strong hands that Kevin probably doesn't have. So usually also a good spot to implement some bluffs. I think most likely type of bluffing candidates then would be a hand. Like the first hand that comes up in my mind is maybe a hand like ace jack with the ace of spades, ace 10 with the ace of spades. These type of hands would be good bluffing candidates. I was thinking maybe a hand with the king of spades, but as we talked about, I think it's more likely that Kevin would barrel that. That would be then a hand like king of spades with a 9. Maybe blocking the ace of spades, 8 of spades would be interesting, but as we also talked about, I think it's likely that Kevin would barrel that as well. So it's a funky spot. And again, it really depends on if you think your opponent is more likely to find the bluffing candidates at a high frequency or at a low frequency, and based on that, make your decision. Okay. Again, also for Kevin, there isn't basically most hands in Kevin's range here will be bluff catchers. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if you have 1 pair or 2 pair. You could even make an argument that having, for example, King Queen here is better than having Jack 10, because with King Queen at least we're blocking a straight, and with Jack 10 we are blocking hands that villain can be bluffing with, as we just discussed, the Ace Jack and the Ace 10s. Okay, even a set here, I think they're all bluff catchers. So the correct thing to do here, in theory, I would say call with a hand like King Queen with a spade at the highest frequency, and then the rest, basically they're all bluff catchers. And then you could call them with a certain frequency if you want to play correct. Kevin thinks about it for quite a while end up folding. Mr. Limitless takes it down. We have here Luuk opening under the gun. We get a call from Kevin in the small blind. They're a little bit deeper and the raise size is quite small, so I like to definitely have some calls here if I'm Kevin. We face a squeeze from Konstantin in the big blind. Luuk thinks about it for a little while and calls. Konstantin now is going to be c-betting, and this is straight away. Also looking ahead, it's going to be quite a tough spot for Luuk, as it's not very likely that Luuk will have 6s, as there's already 2 6s on the board. It's also not very likely that Luuk has 9s, as there's already 2 9s on the board. And Konstantin just has the range advantage in the stronger overpairs. So from that range advantage, he can apply quite a lot of pressure on Luuk. But I think, looking at the pot odds, Luuk has to pay 3.5 to win 14. He's very obligated to still call with a lot of his pairs now on the flop, especially because they can also turn a straight draw with it or sometimes a flush draw with it. Let's say, for example, we have a hand like 7s with a heart. You know, like now we turn a 3 of hearts, we turn a flush draw with it, we still have outs to a boat. If the turn is an 8, a 10 or 5, we make a straight draw. So given the pot odds, we still have to continue quite frequently. Konstantin checks. And now it's up to Luuk. And I expect Luuk to do quite some small betting here with a very big part of his range. Thinks about it for a little while and does end up indeed going for that small bet. And now it's up to Konstantin, who decides to go for a little 3x check raise. I really like this play. I think it puts quite a lot of pressure again on Luuk's range, as we had concluded. It's not very likely that Luuk has a lot of strong hands. Maybe he would have turned some flushes, but let's say you're Konstantin and you have ace king with an ace of hearts or something. I think this is a very good play. This is just very unlikely that Luuk has a strong hand. It's as simple as that. And if someone doesn't have a lot of strong hands and you apply a lot of pressure, usually they're in a tough spot. Okay. And it did get through, so Konstantin wins there a nice little pot. Mr. 888 opens under the gun. Konstantin calls. Konstantin is on fire. 888 checks. 457. Faces small bet from Konstantin. 888 check calls a flop. And now decides to pot out. And this is already where we can kind of see that we're dealing with a recreational. This is a very funky line. It's not really a spot you want to be leading out. Usually you want to take over the betting lead when a card comes in, which improves your range more significantly than the other. And I think here, that's not really the case. Okay, so it's a little bit of a funky bet, and Konstantin is reevaluating his situation. Also important, if you see recreationals do this kind of stuff, it's important to try to figure out what it means. Okay, usually there's definitely some tells to be gained. And this is also why professional players usually kind of try to balance their bet sizings a little bit more, right? You see them use or maybe even one sizing, or if they have 2 sizings, they thought about how to split it so they don't give away actual tells about the strength of their hands. So it's not like their small bet is always weak hands and their big bet is always strong hands, which sometimes with recreationals that can definitely be the case. And if you have a piece of information like that, that will definitely boost your win rate. Konstantin says, listen buddy, you're full of shit. I'm gonna throw out a little raise. So he does throw out a little raise, and now it's up. So 888 does call. So apparently 888 did check call the flop with a hand that he could now call a raise with. which is quite funky. He could have obviously been bluffing. Let's say he had a hand like 10 jack, then Konstantin raised, he was like, okay, I have a gutter, or maybe he has a draw like ace 6 that he tried to take over the betting lead, or hand like ace 3. I think if 888 had a very strong hand, it's very likely that he would have re-raised, kind of depending on his tendencies. So I would say 888 he either has a draw, or I think he maybe turned a 9 with ace 9, 9-10, 9-8 type of holdings. That's what I would probably put in on. So if you're Konstantin, I think this is a fine spot to go and put quite a lot of pressure. As I think 888 is unlikely to have much after calling the turn raise. He thinks about it for a little while and goes in the tank. And he comes up with a very small bet, 1/4. So I think this bet kind of is targeting, it can mean either way. It can mean that, okay, I have a very strong hand, I think you're weak, so I'm gonna bet a small sizing that I get a call from a 9. Maybe you do something funky with a hand like 10 jack, so at least it gives Mr. 888 some room to do something. Or it's like, listen, I have air. Oh, and he did actually have air. He shows the bluff. King 8. Shout out to this guy, man. I like this guy. So he shows the bluff in the face of 888, and this was, he probably just thought, okay, it could be that 888 has a hand like ace 6 or ace 3. I'm just gonna put out a little small bet and hope he folds, okay? Or maybe he has a hand like ace jack of spades or ace jack of diamonds. So it's a little bit of an, I think you have nothing, but I also have nothing. Then usually who puts in the last bet wins type of situation. Kevin opens EP, gets a call from our Mexican friend who we actually haven't really seen much in action. And 888 also decides to call. 888 comes out potting, and as we just saw, the last pot wasn't that strong. Would say it was very likely that it was drawy, as he was folding to a 1/4 bet. So let's take that with us in consideration when evaluating this hand. And now it's up to Kevin. Kevin, I think, is in a spot where if you're heads up, it's quite fine to just call and let 888 do his thing. But obviously, if we would now just call, we will allow Rodriguez in the pot, as it's a multi-way pot. So I would definitely think that Kevin is inclined to raise some stronger hands. So like, even I would say hands like ace jack, ace queen, ace king. So he does indeed raise, and 888 snap calls and checks. So I think 888 can still have a wide variety of hands. Like I said, I haven't never really played with this guy, so I have no clue how he plays. But so far, I mean, draws are definitely in his range, as we concluded from the last hand. And now it's up to Kevin. Kevin goes for a 26k bet, and I couldn't even press pause. That's how fast Mr. 888 calls. A little bit of a timing tell here, and then also with the bet sizing tell on the previous hand, I think it's very likely that our friend here is drawing. And maybe Kevin also realized that and decided to pump up the price a little bit with a slight overbet, like, hey, if you want to draw out of me, you're gonna have to pay for it, Mr. 888. Mr. 888 checks, and now we're in a little bit of awkward situation. 10k left in a 77k pot. I won't expect for 888 to do quite a lot of folding, unless he had a draw that has nothing, a king high flush draw, maybe a jack high flush draw, 8-7 suited, so an 8 high flush draw. But I think it's just very likely that 888 is gonna have a hand like queen jack. Don't think he has an ace or 2 pair or a straight. He would have thought about that for a little while on the turn. Probably again elected to raise, so I would expect a fold. He did indeed fold. Kevin even made it a little bit cheaper. He bet a 10k while he has 10, 4, 9 deuce left. These guys have too much money. They don't care about an extra $500. And he decided, like, I'll give you a little bit of a discount. But 888 folds, as like I said, he probably had nothing and was just drawing. And actually, this is our biggest pot of the day. A little 77k pot going to Kevin. Don't spend it all in one place, sir. And if you do, make sure it's a good place. So with his last 10k, 888 decides to raise the button. And now Limitless is going after him. And we have a flop of queen 10 deuce. Limitless bets half pot. with leaving 888 with a little bit more than half pot. So again, this is quite awkward. I don't really know which type of hands Limitless would do this with. I would say that you either have a value bet that is strong enough to just, I mean, like he's not going to bet fold, I assume. Maybe this is his bluff with ace-6 spades or something. That could, I guess, make sense. But I would say that a lot of my hands want to either just check and let him do the betting, or I just jam the flop and expect to get called. And Limitless now puts him all in finally. 888 calls. And we have ace king versus king jack. Actually, I think this is one of these hands. Obviously, the benefit of betting half pot or even smaller is that you allow 888s to kind of stick around with a hand like ace-8 of hearts. And he's never gonna fold a hand like this anyway. So it's, I think, a well-played hand by Limitless. Very unfortunate for 888 that he hit the flop like this. They're gonna run it twice, but it was not meant to be. And Limitless takes in the money and 888 loses his stack.
Fatality. Flawless victory.
And this is also then the last hand of this high stakes reel. Thought it was quite interesting to see. I think there were a lot of funky hands that I thought were quite interesting. Let me know if you want to see more of these type of videos. I'm going to be reviewing a little bit more high stakes myself in general to prepare. And I could take you guys along for the ride if you would like to. Okay, so guys, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, follow the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Go take a look at other videos that we have made. I'm sure you will like it as well. If you want to see a free 1-hour demo of the mechanics of poker, our main coaching program, go over to pokerambition.com/mechanics.